So before we get started, can we just quickly address the fact that for the second year in a row, a band that is not traditionally a thrash metal band has released easily the best thrash metal album of the year? Like seriously folks, last year it was King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard with Infest the Rat's Nest, and this year it's the Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny demo from Mr. Bungle. With that in mind, I would like to send a message to every single thrash metal band out there, new and old. Step the fuck up, ASA fucking P. You heard correctly, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Bungle, a celebrated cult icon of experimental and avant-garde rock, is back after a 20-year hiatus with a brand new studio album, The Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny. Okay, well maybe not 100% brand new, seeing as how this is in fact a re-recording of the band's original Raging Wrath of Easter Bunny demo tape, released in the mid-80s. However, I will argue maybe at least 75% brand new, not just because that demo tape was never widely released, as far as I can tell, therefore probably still feeling relatively fresh and new to a good majority of you, but also because Mr. Bungle, still led by Faith No More and Dead Cross's Mike Patton, feels relatively refreshed and revitalized thanks to some new additions to the track list, including some S.O.D. and Corrosion of Conformity covers, and some extra star power in the form of Anthrax's Scott Ian on rhythm guitar and Slayer's Dave Lombardo on percussion. And that is a pretty fucking wild lineup right there, to say the least. I mean, if we were to go back to the late 80s and tell some random thrash metal maniac that 30 years in the future, members of Faith No More, Anthrax, and Slayer would be working on an album together, I'm pretty sure they would have creamed their fucking pants right then and there. Hell, I'm getting pretty excited just saying that out loud, like, holy fuck, these guys are all on a record together. And clearly aware of the expectations that this lineup, that this formation would inspire, Mr. Bungle gets straight to fucking business with some of the most satisfying, effective, and direct thrash I've heard in 2020. Tracks like Anarchy Up Your Anus and Raping Your Mind are fantastic examples as to what I'm talking about. They are aggressive, they are cutthroat, they are volatile, they are extremely provocative. Definitely feels like the kind of thing that a thrash band directly from the mid-80s would have written in their time, as these tracks seem unconcerned with political norms or seeming to appear politically correct, and instead just consistently pummel away with razor-sharp riffs and battering, bludgeoning percussion. Mike Patton especially sounds very hectic, very crazed, very deranged on these tracks. I can practically picture him bouncing off the walls like some kind of autistic tween with way too much fucking sugar in his system. I like that as the album goes on, Mr. Bungle starts to feel more and more comfortable going into weirder and even more progressive territory as well. Take for instance the track Mathematics, which very cleverly disguises a very funky, angular 7/8 time signature and a bunch of rhythmic changes underneath some more classic hardcore punk flavor, some very edgy, hyper-political lyrics, and a ton of outright thrash metal buffoonery. Or the track Bungle Grind, which, true to its name, indulges in some more blatant grindcore energy and influences. I mean, you can practically feel the piss and vinegar being flung wildly across the room as Mr. Bungle hammer away with the kind of intensity that we would expect from extreme noise terror or even very, very, very early Napalm Death. And I especially like that despite the attitude, despite the intensity, despite the obvious precision and skill, Mr. Bungle feel pretty comfortable letting loose and just doing really silly, weird, corny shit every now and then. Take for instance on the track Hypocrites Habla Español o Mier, in which the band have absolutely no issue transitioning from an extremely cheesy rendition of La Cucaracha into a relatively pummeling rendition of S.O.D's classic Speak English or Die. I'm also really liking the sound mix and the production value of the record, which does a really great job at still feeling very raw and very authentic to the sound of mid-80s thrash and crossover music, while still remaining in the world of 2020, while still feeling relatively crisp and professional. Where this record loses me a little bit is in its questionable editing and its unnecessarily long, runtime. As flavorful as these thrash metal stakes are, I can't help but think that they'd be even more flavorful if Mr. Bungle was willing to trim a little bit more fat off the sides. Particularly as the album goes on and songs gradually get longer and longer. As a result, they unfortunately end up kind of bleeding together in some parts, to the point where on repeat listens, I genuinely had trouble differentiating tracks like Glutton for Punishment and Spreading the Thighs of Death. Even tracks that I do genuinely enjoy, like Raping Your Mind and Mathematics, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I think they'd benefit even more from being maybe just 1 minute shorter. And I wouldn't really say it's anyone's fault. This has more to do with the genre of thrash itself and this particular branch of super punky, edgy crossover thrash. I mean, this kind of music just consistently works better when it is shorter, when it's 34 minutes, not 56 minutes. Case in point, The Age of Quarrel from Cro-Mags is 33 minutes and 44 seconds long. Speak English or Die from S.O.D's is even shorter, at 28 minutes and 41 seconds long. And the self-titled debut album from Suicidal Tendencies is somehow even shorter at 28 minutes and 17 seconds long. Granted, obviously these records are not good exclusively because they are short, but I don't think it's unfair to say that if they were stretched out to, say, 56 minutes, which is the runtime of this album from Mr. Bungle, they may not hold the same lasting appeal and effect that they hold to this day. The point is, as good as this record is, it would be so much better if they just trimmed a little bit more fucking fat off the end. It would be so much more flavorful, so much more robust, so much more effective, and so much more good, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. All things considered, I would still give this a 3.5 out of 5. This is an extremely entertaining little thrash metal EP that is every bit as cheesy as it is thrilling and bloodthirsty, with fantastic fucking performances, fantastic production, and an all-around great atmosphere that so perfectly captures the magic and chaos of old-school 80s crossover hardcore and thrash metal. I can totally understand longtime Mr. Bungle fans being semi-upset that the album doesn't further indulge in the band's weirder and more avant-garde flavors. But hey, you know what? 2020's been kind of a fucked up year, so maybe all we really need right now is a dumb, simple, spicy little thrash metal record, which is exactly what Mr. Bungle have delivered, in my opinion, warts and all. So 3.5 out of 5, an extremely satisfying piece of modern and old school thrash metal confined into one surprising little package. Definitely check this thing out if you've been hungry for some seriously tasty fucking thrash this year. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately, and you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.